I've gone from moaning about it being too wet to now moaning about it being too dry, and I'm desperately trying to set up my water irrigation system. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Essex Allotment Farm. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Alex and this is my first ever commercial market garden growing for a veg box service here in the UK in Essex. As you might have gathered by the intro and what's going on behind me, I have started to set up my irrigation system here on the farm, and whilst it's very basic and I'm still really learning, I thought I'd take you along for the journey and show you exactly how it is that I'm trying to set up these wobblers. So I'm on the outside of the fence at block A, and this is where my water source is. I'm hooked up to a mains line, but everything on the farm is hooked up to the one line, so my water pressure is really low. So at the moment, the first stumbling block that I've come across is that I can only run one sprinkler at a time, which is obviously not going to work long term, but short term it enables me to crack on with something else whilst we're watering. I'm running off of a normal hose pipe, 13mm hose pipe down to here, which is where my water meter is that you've just seen, and then this is where the magic starts. So as I said, I've run a 13mm hose pipe. It's 100 meters of hose all the way up to the top of the field. Obviously all my blocks aren't complete yet, and they certainly haven't got irrigation in them yet, but the 100 meters reaches the full length of the field, and what I plan to have is some junctions coming off in between each block to enable me to put systems like this in place and water the blocks one at a time. I should say at this point that this is a pretty amateurish setup and is by no means a how-to on how to do things. And as you could see by my water meter and stuff like that, everything's temporary. I'm putting it together temporary first to make sure that it works, and it's what I'm going to do before I start attaching the water meter to a post, fixing these lines down, and maybe even burying some of the hose pipes. So yeah, just a disclaimer, I don't pretend to be an expert at this stuff, certainly the irrigation side of it. This is the first time I'm ever trying to do anything like this, set up anything like this on scale, so I'm learning as I do it. Anyway, back to it. That's the corner we were stood on a minute ago, and you know, what I'm calling the main line is the yellow line that's coming all the way up here, and then in between block A, which is over here on the right hand side, and then this is the central path between block A and block B. If I spin round, well, you can see it. I hope that didn't feel too much like a roller coaster, but this is where I put in my first T-junction, and there's the T-junction just the other side of the fencing. To achieve that, I just bought a load of these 13mm in hose connectors, and one side of my main line attaches here, another here, and then it gives me that joint to come off. There's two other elements that I've put in at these junctions so far, and the reason I've done them is to be able to control where I'm watering at what times, and also help with some of the pressure. So rather than the main line taking 100 meters worth of water every time, I've put in a in hose valve there, and then if we take it back to the T-junction to then cut off this block, if I'm not watering this block about a foot down this line, I've put in another valve, and they're really simple. They're just stop and start and allow water to go through certain parts of the hose pipe. Again, if you're not familiar with them, really simple. Hose goes in one end, hose comes out the other end, you cut the line, attach the hose either end, and that's your stop valve. Then it becomes really simple. So we're at the T-junction, we follow it down in between block A and block B until I get a quarter of the way down, and we have another T-junction, which is here. So that's a quarter of the way along the block, and it goes down there. So at this point I should say that it takes 4 of these attachments, sprinkler head attachments, to cover a whole 15 by 13 metre block. You can see on there and on there, and if I could run them all at the same time, which I will be able to eventually, that covers the whole of these 10 beds plus a perennial bed where the strawberries are at the top here. So it takes 4 of them to cover the whole block. So just to recap so that you can follow this along, that's where we started, that's where the mains water comes out, and we've got the main line in yellow all the way up here. We came up here to the first of the T-junctions where we've got a in-pipe valve here and here to stop the water going up that way if I'm watering this block here, or stop the water coming down this way if I'm watering further up the field. We've then come down the first sort of in-between block line, which is this green one, to the very first T-junction, which is about a quarter of a way down the block, and then we're going to walk up here and have a look at how I've got these sprinkler heads set up. We're at the first of these sprinkler heads, and again, yes, you've guessed it, we've got another T sort of junction here off of the first line in the block, and then this runs all the way up to the sprinkler head here. And at the end of these, because I can't water them all at the same time, I've just put these stop ends on, these quick release stop ends, and attached them again temporarily to about a 3 foot high post. And again, I want to judge the height. This is the recommended height for these sprinkler heads. And I want to judge for myself the reach, and yeah, 3 foot looks about right. So when I put them in permanently, I might hammer them in a little bit more, and make them a little bit sturdier, but it's all, like I said, a little bit temporary at the moment because I just want to judge where they reach to depending on what height you've got the sprinkler. So like I said, it's just normal 13mm hose all the way around to the point where we get the first stop start, and I'm using these sprinkler heads. They're called wobblers, and effectively what it does is it shoots the jet up the middle there, that wobbles and creates the spinning motion that you saw earlier in the day and spreads the water off in all directions. I've attached a little sort of hose attachment to the bottom of it, which makes it really simple for me to click on, he says, doing it one-handed, and then click off when I'm watering and not watering. So there in full shot is the setup. As I said, T-junction at the bottom here, it goes all the way up to the quick connector at the top. It cuts off the water when it's not in use or it's got nothing plugged into it, and then the wobbler goes on there. And you've seen them in action, and I'll show you again at the end of the video. And then just to finish off each line, as you go past this one, we follow the T-junction down to 3/4 of the way down the block, where the line comes to here, and there's no need for a T-junction, it just goes straight up. And as you can see, I've already got one attached here, and it's quick release, same as the one before, and that's each of the line. Said that it takes 4 of these to cover an entire block, and here we are in the other section, and it's set up exactly the same way. So we're at the end of the line, and I'm just going to quickly show you how it's set up exactly the same as the line we've just seen. So we're at the end of the line here. And there we are back at the sort of T-junction in between block A and block B. And all I plan to do now is replicate that in between every single block all the way up the full length of the field. And then to deal with the pressure issues that I'm having currently, I'm obviously going to have to buy a booster to attach to the main line to increase that water pressure so that I can water a block at a time. I don't really want the pressure high enough to have to water any more than a block at a time. As you can see by the in-hose valves, I want control. I want to be able to turn some of them on, some of them off, and I like how this is working so far in block A. I would like to have them all running simultaneously whilst I'm working on a different block. But I do want to have the capacity to switch on and off each individual block, and then as time goes on I might put more inline valves in so that I can perhaps run 2 sprinklers at a time or 1 sprinkler at a time. But I've always got the option to take the sprinklers off, physically off the top of the lines with those quick connectors, quick hose connectors, and that stops each individual one. So yeah, that was a quick look at my irrigation system so far. If you've got any ideas on how I can improve this, or things that I've missed or forgot, just let me know in the comments below. I'm always willing to learn. So yeah, drop them in the comments below. Things that I have thought of but not put in place yet. Obviously, where the water meter is, I want to have a system where I can just plug in and plug out just a normal hand hose there. I increase the pressure, the connections, all the in-hose connections might need some support to keep the hoses on, because whilst those connections are quite good, they're not perfect. I'm sure if I up the pressure, there's a chance that the hose might slip off, so I've got to think about doing something about that with the little circular hose clamps maybe. And eventually, again, near where the water meter is, it'd be brilliant to have some kind of timer system, so stuff would turn on and off, or certainly turn off, without me needing to be here. So there we have it. That's my temporary setup. It's work in progress, and I hope that gave you some ideas on maybe how to set up something similar on a smaller scale or a larger scale, depending on how you're growing. As I said, there'll be people out there that are much better at this stuff than me, but look, it's doing the job. It's doing the job so far, and it's all about learning. And you know, I thought I'd share this with you, my learning, my thinking process, so that you can learn with me. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate the support. Again, sorry there's not been a video. It's just a crazy time of year. But if you did enjoy it, hit the thumbs up, think about subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.